What's up, friends? After 3 years of market farming, I want to share my brutally honest thoughts with you about small scale farming. Reality is, I think the large majority of small scale market farmers really struggle and end up ultimately shutting down their farm. Most of them have off farm jobs. And personally, I started getting into small scale market farming 5 years ago when I lived in Colorado, and I started volunteering on a urban farm. And that's where I kind of got into this whole idea of small scale farming. And ultimately, for the past 3 years, we've been seriously running our market farm. And I just kind of want to share some of the struggles that come along with market farming. Do I think it's worth it? Do I think it's profitable? And I just want to get into the nitty gritty with y'all. So, if you're anything like me, you love the idea of running a farm, the day to day life, tending to the animals, managing the crops. You've probably watched videos online and you've kind of gotten that passion ignited in your heart to be connected to the land. And that was my journey. And whether you're watching this video thinking about starting a market farm or whether you're currently running one, I'm going to kind of share just some of the struggles I've faced and we faced here running our farm. So, one of the biggest challenges with market farming is just the ability, in my opinion, to make a livable wage or a livable income actually doing it. Do I think that it's profitable? Do I think you can make money? Yes, 100%. But the hardest part about market farming is simply making enough money doing it. Um, People don't get into this industry and into this field of growing food to make a lot of money. And if that's your end goal with market farming, I would tell you do not start a market farm. People get into it because they're really passionate about it ultimately. But one of the hardest parts about it is most market farmers, I would say, have an off farm job that pays them more money. And ultimately, they really struggle to actually sell their product and make enough money to make it worthwhile. That's one of the hard parts. My mentor, my farm mentor always says that growing is the easy part. And I couldn't find that more true, because you would think that growing the food is actually easy. It's actually really hard to successfully and consistently grow good crops that you can then turn around and sell. But you can grow stuff pretty easily, in my opinion, once you kind of learn the systems and you understand soil health. But turning around and selling that product at a price that you need to actually make money is it's tough, y'all. You know, we live in Central Arkansas. It's where our farm is located, and I would say we have an okay market for high end, organically, regeneratively raised, or regeneratively grown products. But you still have to get that to the end consumer. I think today's consumers are really used to convenience, and they're also used to paying supermarket prices. So you've got a twofold battle that you're facing. One is convenience, is you've got to either get people to come out to your farm to buy the product, you have to go to a farmer's market, or you have to do deliveries. People coming to your farm and people going to a farmer's market are two of the most inconvenient things, in my opinion, because they're so used to be able to go to Walmart or Kroger or Costco or Sam's Club and to be able to get most everything that they need at a much more affordable price. Because I think people kind of have sticker shock sometimes when they're paying for high end produce. Now, I'm not going to get into, do I think that buying food freshly harvested and grown well is better for you? 100%. There's consumers out there that are okay and great paying the prices that they have to pay, from small farms. But that's a big battle that you face. So, like, half of our income from our farm is from deliveries. We do direct to their door. We only do it in certain zip codes. And that is a successful model. And I think that if you're running a market farm, then that's probably your best route to go in order to actually be able to sell your product. Now, the other aspect to the small scale farming, especially when it comes to market farming and growing vegetables, is it's a massive amount of labor. It's a massive amount of work. And that is your big input cost, because small scale market farming, you're not using a whole lot of equipment. I mean, you're using your body to plant, to harvest, and it just takes a lot of time. And I find that, you can watch all these videos online of how these market farmers, are selling $150,000 a product. But the reality is on small scale farms is, even if you're doing 100,000 in sales, I'd argue you only taking a third of that home. So if you do 100 grand in sales, which that is a ton of sales when it comes to a small scale farm, you're only going to be taking 30 grand of that home. And I think it's arguably potentially even lower depending upon the crops that you're growing. And so that's a really another difficult part of this. And I think people look at small scale farming with such a fairy tale lens because they're working a desk job and they're dreaming about running a farm. But you have to really have an honest take about this industry. It's very difficult. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's very difficult to make money and make it worthwhile. And the other hard part, again, about it is your infrastructure and your startup costs for market farm, in my opinion, is pretty high. Like, you've got to come up with 30 grand just to kind of baseline get your market garden off the ground. And so that's a difficult part for some people that don't have that income or don't have the land base. We're not even getting into that of, do you have enough space to even do it? Every year I take it 1 year at a time, and then I'm like, okay, do I want to do this another year? And every year I'm always at the borderline of like, I think I just want to shut this down and just completely homestead. And that may be something that you consider because there's so many other businesses that you can start online. There's so many other things you can do, especially if you're in the United States. There's so much opportunity and other ways that you can make a great income and then just homestead. Like, if you're passionate about growing things, just homestead and garden. And so, to be honest, now when people talk to me or reach out to me or I do a consult call about someone wanting to start a market farm, I really, to be honest, I kind of start out kind of trying to talk them out of it because it is such a difficult thing to do. One of the other really difficult things about small scale market farming in general, or small scale farms, I would say, is they're very difficult to scale. Some people say, well, just grow twice the amount of crops if you want to make more money. Well, that's easy to say, but that means I've got to double my inputs and my labor cost. And then again, as I was mentioning earlier, I've got to go find a sales outlet for those items. So then I've got to double my sales, which that's not an easy task um, to accomplish. And so scale, I think, in this context of small scale farming, is not easy. You've got to either do the labor yourself or hire the labor. And I find that market farming is not a very scalable business. Um, it's a very, very tough business to scale. I think there's very few farmers that are absolutely crushing it and making good money. And I think you probably know of them. You see them on the internet. I'm not going to mention names. And they have fantastic sales outlets and they've worked their butt off to build their farm. I'm not taking that away from them at all. But I think there's only a handful, in my opinion, that are actually crushing it. I think that's the reality of small scale farms. I've been doing this for 3 years, been involved in it for 5. And over the past 5 years, the cost of living, especially in the United States, has increased drastically with inflation, with the cost of housing, with the cost of vehicles. The list goes on. And so I think it's gotten even harder to make market farming worth the money. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments, whether you're thinking about market farming or whether you're currently running one. What are your thoughts on what I'm sharing? And ultimately, stick around if you like this type of content. And we're going to keep putting out a lot of homestead gardening content because ultimately, I think that's what people need to learn how to do. People need to learn how to grow food for them and their families. And I think that is the future. And that's why I think we've seen such of this homestead movement explode. It's because everybody wants to get back to the land. They want to grow food for themselves and be more self-sufficient. And that's kind of the future and direction of this channel. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next one.